to Unstoppable Consciousness. My name is Lisa Lajwa and I am your host. And today I have one of my most favorite people in the planet on the show, Susan Hobson. Hello, girl.
Woohoo!
With you.
I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy to share about your brilliance, and I just adore you and love you, as you know, and I can't wait to help to walk down this journey with you so we can help as many people as possible learn about their own ability to be unstoppable and to rise into that person that they are really meant to be. So you are a high performance leadership coach, which is super exciting. One of my favorite things about you is that you are a professional hockey player that played in the women's NHL. Everybody sit back. Did you hear what I just said? Audience, did you hear what I just said? You are going to listen to a professional women's hockey player, ladies. So can we start there? How did that happen, woman? Like, honestly, how did that happen? Tell me about that.
I think to tell you about how that happened, I'll tell you about sort of where that kind of story began, if that's okay.
Of course.
I, as you know, was a little girl growing up in Mississauga, Ontario in the 80s. My older brother played hockey, and so of course I decided that I had to play too. And it was the 80s, so we weren't even in the Olympics yet. So when I started playing hockey, I immediately started, dreaming about playing in the NHL, like my brother talked about.
Of course you did.
My dream was I was going to grow up and play in the NHL for the Boston Bruins. And then, you know me, I'm an extrovert. So I went to school and I was telling all my classmates about it. And it didn't take long before I started getting all that kind of external feedback from my world telling me that as a chick, I probably wasn't going to grow up and make millions playing in the NHL. So fortunately for me, I was able to pivot my sights onto just, getting the best education that I could out of my hockey. Because at that time in the 80s, that was starting to happen. Girls were getting recruited from Canada down to these fancy schools in the United States who had, these big scholarships to offer. And let's be honest, that's our export up here, especially in the 80s. It's hockey players. So
exactly.
Yeah. So that's sort of what set my sights in that direction. I was very fortunate. You know my story. I went down at 13 to boarding school in New Hampshire on a full hockey scholarship, and was fortunate enough to get recruited out of there to go to Princeton University, where I played for 4 years. And then, after that point, I wasn't ready to hang the skates up yet because I actually had a bad injury at the very tail end of my senior year at Princeton. And I decided I wasn't going down like that. That wasn't the note that I wanted to finish on.
Right.
And it was right about the time when the WNHL was launching. I came out of Princeton and I came back to Toronto and was lucky enough to be one of the 2 rookies that was asked to join the Toronto team, which was very fortunate for me. They didn't even have tryouts, but I ended up manifesting. It was slightly different than my 8-year-old self probably envisioned, but at the same time, it was a real pinnacle thing for me to end my career on that kind of a high note. I mean, I was lucky enough to be a part of, we won that year. I played for Toronto, my first year in the league. We won the national championships. And yeah, and it was the year that the Stanley Cup was on strike, or the NHL was on strike. So they actually brought the Stanley Cup to our championship game.
Yes, I remember.
I know. So it's an interesting path, the way that it all played out. So now I can actually say that I did play in the NHL.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So I know that everybody's wondering what position you played. So I want you to tell us.
I was center for the most part. I played a little bit of wing too.
Nice. Really nice.
I like taking the face-offs.
And what was
I like being in the action.
Right? And what was it like for you to be in that experience as a woman, as a female, with all the bumps and the things that you must have had to go through in that industry? I want to talk about that because I know a little bit about, you've shared with me some of the things that shaped what you do today and that shaped you as a person. Because I think, we've talked about this a lot. It's like, high performing people, I think it can be something you learn, but a lot of the time it's just inside. It's just like something that's innately inside of a person, right? So for you to want to accomplish that experience and to make it happen and to go through the bumps and bruises on the ice and then off the ice, I think it's important people realize that it sounds really good, but I'm sure there was some really important challenges that you persevered that led you to what you're doing today. And I want to just talk a little bit about that, right?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it's very empowering to play any sport for a female. I think is extremely beneficial.
Yeah.
I say that as a mother of an 8-year-old girl myself. She didn't choose hockey, she chose soccer, but still, it's just such a wonderful way to acquire life skills, I think, to develop resiliency and
Yes.
mental toughness.
Yes.
And all those lessons are sort of buried in sports, in the context of sports. And so that was a lot of what was valuable for me. First and foremost, the opportunity to just get recruited and offered money to go play hockey for us girls is like that's a pretty amazing thing, right? Because again, our professional sports are not as lucrative as our male counterparts. So that's a very empowering thing, right? To be able to open up that sort of a life path for yourself through the context of sports. But I think, just even competing at that sort of high level, right? Where it's like, it's high pressure, high stakes situations and having to get on the ice and compete, on big stages. It basically taught me a lot about myself.
Like what? I want to know the whats. I want the juice. That's incredible for sure, because I love sports as well. And I think,
I know you do.
It's so important that as women, we share that. It's really important that you learn to compete and be a comrade and be all the things that being in a sport will give you, learning to persevere obstacles, overcoming your own internal obstacles and external obstacles, learning to find ways to succeed in pressure situations, like no matter what the sport is, you know what I mean? I mean, at your level, that's a strong level of hockey. You know what I mean? And I know that it was, you guys you were a physical in the sport, right? So it wasn't like, because I think people don't understand, like this was a physical, it's not just, they just hang out. There's like everything that went along with it. So it's a lot to overcome, like I know I'm going to share a little bit because I think it's cool. The only way that I can understand what you went through is I'm a racquetball player, and in playing racquetball in my gym, I'm the only woman because I really understand men. Like I have a real acceptance for how they are. And, I'm the only woman who survived club. I was the only woman playing with like 70 guys of racquetball and did that for a long time. And the feeling you have to get into inside to accomplish is so deep. You really have to like know what you can do, know who you are, and then there's a click that happens when you're competing against that kind of level. For me, it was a level of dealing with this testosterone and guys, like there's 4 of us in a court and me, and they're all 6'2", and I'm like trying to figure out how to win the point, So what are some of the takeaways for you that developed inside from that experience?
Well, it's interesting, like when I really jump in my time machine and shuttle back and really think, and look in the rear view mirror. I started on that journey of wanting to compete because, I as 8-year-olds, like Brooklyn would say, you just want to be your best. When you get into competition, that's kind of what it's all about. And then interestingly enough, in the sport, you start to be conditioned into certain beliefs and certain strategies in terms of how you can get to being the best. And so early on in sports, there's a lot of positive reinforcement when you're on the ice and you're scoring the points and you're a contributing member, and all of that's very, very, very important, especially when you're trying to get recruited and you're trying to go somewhere with your sport. So I think at first, I picked up a lot of externally motivated strategies, right? Like I thought to be the best, that it meant that I had to be on the ice scoring all the goal and being the contributing member, which was great whilst I was still kind of early on in my career. And that was easy for me to do because I had some talent. then obviously those strategies were working. But the most valuable thing that I think that I got out of that whole experience, especially once I got recruited to one of the top NCAA programs for women's hockey in the world, was that, you know, when you get into really high pressure, highly competitive environments, those externally motivated strategies don't work anymore. As you're no longer always on the ice, always the one scoring the goals. You know, it's a lot of times when you get to that level of competition, you really got to earn your spot. So you spent a lot of time on the bench, and it's interesting for me because that was really the moment where I got exposed to the whole importance of and power of this whole mindset thing that I teach now today. Yeah, it's like my freshman year, I kind of described that as like this incredible brick wall moment where I, you know, kind of went overnight from being the big fish in the small pond to the little minnow in the ocean. Like that's how it felt, because Princeton's such a highly competitive, not only athletically, but academically in the classroom as well. And so clearly you start out there kind of at the bottom of the pack.
Yeah.
And so that was a fascinating moment. Like the more I think about it and look back on it, you know, I was taught that I had to go outside myself to get what I needed to feel inside of myself, to be in that kind of that peak state of confidence and motivation and focus. And here I was riding pine my freshman year with slivers up my butt, and I just had no clue how I was going to do that.
Right on. Yeah.
And that's why I call that a brick wall moment. Lisa, you've heard me talk about this. It sent me into such a tailspin, and I had such a crisis of self, because, you know, all those externally motivated strategies, all of a sudden they weren't going to work for me. So it was around that time where I got exposed to the fact that people in really high levels of competition, like I always knew as an athlete, I had to get in the gym and train. I had to get on the ice and skate hard, you know, like I had to train my body. But this is the first time in my life where I actually learned that these types of high performers actually spend that much time in the mental gym too, like doing that brain training. Like I had no exposure to this coming up the ranks of hockey. I didn't know that performance was 90% mental, and I'd never really done anything about that. So
incredible, eh? Isn't it incredible? That must have been like just a huge aha and freak out. Like, wow, how vulnerable you must have experienced that.
Yeah, I mean, it was incredibly vulnerable. I remember being on the payphone, like crying to my mom in my dorm, like, "Mom, I'm an imposter. I can't compete with these people. They're way smarter than me, and they're way better than me in hockey." And like I had my finger this close to the eject button because I was in a tailspin and I didn't know how to compete without confidence and motivation.
Yeah. And without the ease of being the all-star, right? Like, cause you know, that's a comfort zone. And when you're not challenged, and then you're challenged in such an enormous way, I mean, that's just a totally vulnerable state to overcome. You know what I mean? So I want to know what you did. Like, I know this is like the reason I want to talk about it so much, because this is the birth of who you are now. This is so much about how you took control of your life and who you are today and what you do for all the people that you serve, which to me is like, you know, we've done work together. You blow me away with some of the stuff you've taught me and that I've gone through. Your willingness to grow and be in that place of vulnerability and just try to find the strategy through is like just second to none. It's a gift and a talent to have that, because this is what I think people are missing. They think competition is always about like some kind of force, and sometimes it's not. It's about some kind of shift, an awareness, a recognition. There's a hole right there, and if I go through, I'm going to find a treasure, and that treasure is going to be my saving grace, that part inside of me somewhere. I want to know, like, what did you find inside through that journey? I know there was a lot of challenges, and I know you went through a lot, but what did you find about yourself that you know has made you the person you are today?
I think the biggest gift, and I don't use that word lightly. I know it was like the most adverse experience of my life when I hit the brick wall, you know, my freshman year. I was like getting C's and D's for the first time in my life. Like I was a straight A student. I got recruited to an Ivy League school. I was like not getting any ice time. And then my father was suddenly diagnosed with cancer, like boom, 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 all in my first year. And it was my dream to go to Princeton. Like, that's the backstory here. It was my dad's dream. It was my dream. And so here I am having this pinnacle moment, and all of that rug kind of was taken away from underneath my feet. And I think the biggest opportunity that was really disguised in that adversity was that it really forced me to have to go inward and really start to identify what kind of broken strategies I was running on.
Amazing.
Because
what a great way to say it.
High achievers, there's a difference between a high achiever and a high performer in my books. High achievers, whilst they're able to have, success in their career and success financially, and they've achieved a lot, they're running on deficit strategies. And what that means is that they're actually hardwired to believe that they have to go outside of themselves to get what they need to feel inside of themselves so that they can achieve. And that's completely unsustainable. Yeah. Whereas a high performer, it's all about sustainability. It's about being able to realize your peak potential, no matter where you are, when it is. Like, it's all about being able to do that sustainably, because your strategies are intrinsically based. And that's the real gift that was buried in this experience for me, is that I was taught to look inward for the very first time. And I was able to figure out where those resources lay inside of me, so that I could turn my confidence and my motivation back on like a switch. And I just think, it's the biggest gift that I've ever received, because ever since that point, it's just been massive acceleration of my growth and realizing my potential, which, as it turns out, was what my 8-year-old self meant when she woke up and said, I want to be the best. I want to play in the NHL. It's just what I learned to believe that actually meant, right? Because whereas when I was growing up, I was taught to believe that being the best meant being better than everybody else, being better than my opponents and my teammates and my classmates.
And everybody,
It was like, that's kind of messed up thinking, like, to be teaching kids especially, right? Is that you need to be better than, or else you're not good enough. So the biggest turnaround, in that brick wall experience for me, was to redefine success to be back in alignment with what my unconditioned self, my 8-year-old self, meant when she said that. And what that means is I just want to be my best. I want to realize my fullest potential. I want to see what I'm made of. I want to celebrate what I got. And ever since that turned around for me, like, it was the greatest sense of freedom and autonomy and empowerment, because
Incredible.
You know what I mean? I learned to be able to trust that was all inside of me.
Yeah. And it's like a truth switch, it switched gears completely to say, wow, so that is my map. That's the road I need to follow. There was something already in me that was there, present, ready to be tapped, to just help me understand, like, it's about me with me. It's not about like other people. It's about me with me.
That's it right there. It's competing with yourself.
Exactly. Because I think that's a difference too in the conversation, about high achievement. Achievement is an activity that leads to a result. High performance is like an activity that leads to a reward of self that is consistent and continues. There's never a stopping point. There's no landing point. You know what I mean? For me, that's the big difference in working with people like that. And I know for you too, and just being like that myself, like, high achievement is like, yeah, okay, I can sit here for a minute. I never feel like I'm going to sit here for a minute. I feel grateful and relaxed, but I always feel like there's something else I can find. There's something else I can do. There's somewhere else inside me that's hasn't been discovered. You know what I mean? There's something else. There's another, not bar to reach, but place to land.
Beautifully you know what I mean? Said. Yeah, that's what it is. I always say, with a high performer, you could tell you're a high performer right there by everything you just said, which is this insatiable desire to grow. That's it. Like, that's the turnaround. It's no longer about achievement and targets and things. It's just about realizing more and more of yourself. And that is, it's just something, when you really learn how to tap and tune into it, it's insatiable. And that's really good, because I think that's how we wake up every day and we hit the ground running with purpose and full engagement, right? It's not something outside of you that you're chasing, as much as it's something inside of you that you're trying to bring out and realize.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%. 100%, because that's the thing that I've found working with people who just think the goal is going to bring them the joy and the
Yeah.
fulfillment, and they never get it. And then, like, I've had clients like that where there's constantly another thing they want to do, and it's just never
Never
ending.
enough.
Yeah,
Never enough.
it's never enough. There's a lack of celebration,
Yeah.
and it's paralyzing for them at one point, because the drain on the energy is like so depleting, and they're never satisfied. There's no satisfaction in that journey. So I know, like for me, so first of all, I just think you're brilliant, and I want to talk about your work, and thank you for sharing so openly that beautiful story, because I just think it's a unique story. I have never met anybody else who's had that experience, and put yourself in that position to be that relentless, that you played hockey at that level. Because for me, it's being relentless, because I'm sure so many times, right, you want to just, oh my God, if I could
Oh,
time, why is that girl so much bigger than me? You know, oh man, that's hard.
there's
That's
a
like
lot of that.
every day. No, but it's like every day, and academically, that's an enormous challenge. So I
Well,
know, like thank you for sharing so openly how and what you found in that challenge, because I know it wasn't like one day challenge, it was a long-term challenge. And like, I've known you for a long time, so I've been really honored and privileged to see the birth of you over and over again.
yeah,
So I want to talk
you
about,
really have.
yeah, like it's so, like, you know, you blow me away. Like, I just, like, it's sometimes you just love somebody and who they are and who they keep becoming all the time. That's how I feel about you. You know, that's
Oh, that
about
means a lot
allowing
coming from you. Thank you, Lise.
it's very, like, meaningful to me to that we have that continued knowledge of each other and where we are, and there's a support and a beautiful friendship and camaraderie that has come from all the years we've known each other.
I
But
know.
like, in this case, I just want to talk about, like, you know, what you gave birth to, related to entrepreneurship, related
Yeah,
to,
that's where
like,
it gets
who
interesting, eh?
you are. No, because that's like turning your water into wine, girl. Like, that's
Yeah.
like, it's like you took a dream and remorphed it by
Yeah.
understanding yourself and seeing who you are, and finding a new passion in all of it that has led you to what you do today. So I just want to talk about this birth of your work and the elite coaching that you do with people, and go.
Yeah, I think it's when I learned how to turn inward and I started to connect with my definition of success, and I started to learn about all these different mindset strategies that really, like, helped me turn the corner fast. Like, I said, I was riding pine my first year, getting C's and D's in the classroom for the first time. Then I learned how to get it in the mental gym. And by my second year, I was one of the leading scorers on the top lineup, getting nominated for the national dean's list. So when I had that experience, and I was taught now to go inside and
Okay,
make.
wait. Okay, no, wait. Okay, year one, I think we're gonna stop there for a minute. So year one, I was in the C's. I wasn't getting anywhere. I wanted to leave. I had all this loss in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I was decimated. I was on the ice flat. And year two, I found a mindset, mental gym process, and all of a sudden I'm next year, what? Repeat.
Yeah, so just like one of the leading scorers on the top lineup, and on the national dean's list. So it just was a real
Incredible.
turnaround. It was a real quick pivot, as we would say in hockey.
Yeah.
But it wasn't lost on me, you know, especially after just losing my dad, who was a big moral compass for me growing up, in terms of what was really driving me to want to achieve, as you know from my story.
Yeah.
And I had to go inside, and I had to learn how to become my own compass. And I think when I was doing that, and I was trying to make sense of what all this meant, it was not lost on me that I was this little girl from Mississauga. Nobody in my family even went to university. And here I am,
Right?
sitting behind the gates of Princeton, the #1 Ivy League school. And I'm like, it wasn't lost on me. I was like, this is when spirituality started to kick in for me, because I really started to see there's a reason why I was here, and there was a reason why these things were happening to me. It wasn't lost on me that I was so driven and so passionate and so determined and so resilient. We haven't even talked about the Crohn's part yet, but it's like nothing, even a life-threatening disease I was diagnosed with my freshman year in high school, was stopping me. And I I stopped and I really thought about that. And I thought, you know what, I'm supposed to do something with this. This happened to me for a reason. And I started to calibrate my environment. And I'm like, oh, this is what these fancy places behind the gates, this is the high level intel that they get exposed to, that blue collar people like me maybe never in their life get an opportunity to learn about.
Right.
And once I started to really clarify that, it became this feeling of being on a mission. I remember being the one at the back of the hockey bus who everybody would stop on their way to the bathroom after they played a bad game, crying and bawling their eyes out. Like I was coaching people, just my teammates and my friends. But it just started to become this mission and this desire to want to just share this with as many people as I could. And you know me, so you know I'm an incredibly sensitive empath beneath all that toughness.
You are.
And I just started to, by the time I came out the gates of Princeton and I decided to come back to Toronto because my mom, you know, had lost her husband, was alone. And I came back and I started to it started to become clear to me what I wanted to do with this. It started to become clear to me that whether it's sports or business or life, it's all the same performance principles, right? Just in different arenas. So by the time I came up here and started playing pro hockey, I started getting into courses, coaching courses. I found NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, which is what my specialty is in. And I went on this mission to just try to teach this at first, it was just anybody who will listen to me. Cause you know, when I came out the gates as a coach in 2007-ish, it really wasn't a big thing yet. And so, I parlayed that at first into doing the brain training with athletes, cause that was low hanging fruit. I was, you know, just coming off of playing pro hockey. And then I started to pick up, you know, a couple business clients, and I started to see, wow, it's the same process. It's just, I'm using slightly different linguistics, slightly different language. And then all of a sudden it became clear. It's like, whether it's sports or business, it's like that the people that I am destined to help with this are the people that are very much like me, the high achievers running on deficits. And hitting that glass ceiling in their growth, or that brick wall in their performance.
Right.
So that's sort of what birthed it, is like, it really was a purpose-driven mission to make the most of all this adversity that I've been through and what it taught me. And most importantly, what was on the other side of that for me, which was just massive realization of my potential.
Yeah. And, you know, there's something like I know about you that is really beautiful. And, you know, being that powerful empath, which is a struggle that so many high performers have, they don't realize they're empaths, and the bridge to cross is really hard, and it's very confusing. You're almost fighting with yourself because a part of you wants to give and a part of you is like, achieve, come on, let's go. And so sometimes it's really hard to have the correct dance and, you know, how to move through this, and for the two parts of you to cross the bridge and meet. But it's interesting because I've always seen you as, you're so driven to make sure people understand how you transform yourself from the heart, that's the beginning point. It's not, I don't see you as like, you know, I see you as talented in business, incredible entrepreneur, driven in your work, but your heart is the place it starts. Like, let me just share what I've learned, because I can't believe how it's changed my life. You know what I mean? Like, and not only that, you're such a pro, you're able to like zero in on people because of that empathic strength you have. And it's like, I want the audience to hear how powerful that ability is, to be, when you're a coach at that level, to zero in on somebody's, where they are, just where they are and where the deficits are, without words, just feeling and sensing and knowing, and then translating that into actionable advice. And let's go, and here we go, let's rewire, let's go for it, let's move. Like, what a phenomenal talent. To me, that's like a phenomenal gift to the world, to have you doing that for people at this level. You know what I mean? And it's hard too, because I think like what you went through, which gives permission to all the people that you work with, is you were that high achiever who was put into a challenge. You know, you were that high performer, and in the challenge, you really had to find out what you had to accept, you know, and go through. So
I don't think we can grow without challenge. I think we have the wrong associations even with that word. Like challenge is a wonderful thing.
it is.
You know, I know we're all going through this challenge of COVID-19, and it's a lot of people are in fight or flight. It's bringing up a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, a lot of doubt. But for me, I almost get, it sounds weird to say, but I almost get excited when I'm going through a challenge, because I know what's on the other side of that is I'm going to see what I'm made of.
No, I know it too.
I know enough about, because I've been through so many challenges, and that's exactly why I'm here, able to speak about this from a place of authenticity. It's just, I know when we're pushed outside our comfort zone, that's where we're able to really realize more and more of our capacity.
Yeah.
It's like being in the gym. If I wasn't challenged, if I wasn't sweating, I was not happy with myself. I was not pleased, because I knew I wasn't making gains if I wasn't challenging my limit. And that's what I love again about sports, and what sports taught me. It was like this lab for performance. It's the same thing in life. It's the same thing in business. If you're not being challenged, you're not able to get into your flow. You're not able to get into your peak state.
True. That's
right?
100%. Yeah. 100%.
Everything we look at in the context of high performance coaching, it's all about your ROG, your rate of growth. Like that's what we care about most. That's what we value most. And I just think, challenge. It's so interesting to see people's association with that, isn't it?
It's totally amazing. It's honestly, and it's like, this is the difference, because lots of people are stressed and worried. So the difference between one person and another is such a huge contrast. So for me, I've been working 12 hours a day doing all this creation work because I can. Like nothing's taking me out of my house right now. Other people are just sitting there paralyzed and freaking out, and I'm trying to just help them get inspired that there's so much that you can do in this place and space and time to bring yourself up, to raise yourself into another place of awareness, to find new goals, find new centers of points of self to launch yourself from, in whatever area and whatever relationship you're having with whatever area of life. It doesn't even matter. So I want to talk about your company. I want to talk about that, because I freaking love what you do. Can we discuss what you're up to? Sit back, people. Like seriously, this is good. The other thing I want to say before I'm going to let you talk again is this. So while I was listening to you, this is what I understood. This is what I really understood about being a person who can vulnerably embrace change through challenge, and through being willing to contribute to your own next level. Okay? I think that's the differentiator between you and somebody else, is you looked and learned to look, which just becomes like a part of your frequency as a person. Because this is how I am. Like I have a challenge and I automatically go into a state of like, fuck yeah.
Okay? Me too.
Right? Well,
people think we're sick and twisted, but we associate pleasure to it.
Because and that's the thing I want people to know. That's why I'm bringing it up. I want people to know that that's like a launch pad. You may not know in the moment that it's a launch pad until you do it. You can't get through it till you go through it. There's no like, oh, I'm just going to like forget the springboarding.
No.
The launch pad is the excitement, because it's like, that's what lets you do it again and again. And when you think of your challenge or something that's coming up in your life, you go back on 10 or 20 years of overcoming obstacles and challenges, you become fierce. You're not afraid, no matter what it is. I mean, you have had Crohn's as well. You get, that's another life challenge as well, having to cope with that, deal with that, have the right mindset around that. You've described so many personal obstacles that you've overcome, like it's incredible. You don't complain. You just say sometimes, okay, maybe a bit, and then we get through it. Let's go. You reach out for help. You humble yourself. You're a constant learner. You want to constantly learn new things and keep growing and growing, growing. And that's why you're here. That's why you are where you are. You know what I mean? Which is what I want to talk about now. So let's talk about.
I want to add something. I want to add something before we go. That's funny. Like as an athlete, and you're an athlete too, get this. It's like you make your biggest gains in the off season. Like you don't. Right? When you're forced to the sidelines, any athlete who's had an injury, who's been in peak state and go, and then all of a sudden you're forced to the sideline. You immediately have to switch gears and mentally pivot and start to dig and say, well, where can I make gains? Right? And
Yep.
it's kind of awesome that that is a byproduct of what comes out of having competed in a sport, but it's the same. That's why I'm all about this mindset strategy architecture thing, because it's all the same strategy. It's all the same
That's
strategy.
your badassism. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
it's my gift and my blessing that that was
Incredible.
my training ground, right? And
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I think my sweet spot is just that I was able to really make sense of all of that, and I was really able to learn a lot about myself, but then also start to really see that in the way that I'm able to brain train with my clients, you know, in terms of their mindset strategy. Because not
Mm-hmm.
all of them have played sports, you know, not all
Right.
of them have that context to pull from.
Yep.
But I think everybody respects that sports is a sort of a training ground and a breeding ground for some of the best mindset strategies, right? And that's why that's why I became a coach, is because like that model for helping accelerate growth, it was just I saw that for over 20 years, and
Right.
in terms of how having somebody outside of your subjective experience, which is oh so limited, who keeps you accountable and pushes you outside your comfort zone on purpose and contains you in the corners of your brain where you don't want to be, you know, it challenges you to go deeper. Like, this is what I love about you, and why you've been in my corner since pretty much since my launchpad in business, is because I totally value your ability to really challenge me and
Mm.
force me to go deeper. And so I know we want to transition into talking about like my business and how I sort of operate, you know, 12 years into the game, but
It's incredible. First of all, it's just a big celebration for me.
it's
You
a
know what I
big
mean?
parlay.
It's really something, you know what I mean? Like, people don't realize, like, and that's why it was so important. I wanted to talk about and get you to really talk about, because it, you know, when people listen to this, and my audience is listening, I want, like, let's really think about what you've gone through. You have the most amazing positive attitude because you've
Thank
overcome
you.
so much. You know what I mean? But during the time, that's what makes you absolutely incredible at what you're doing, and why you're so successful, because you're able to first of all, turn your pain into purpose, first of
Yeah.
all, and give it a strategy. Okay, when you could turn your pain into purpose and turn it into a strategy, turn it into it being prosperous for other people because you share that with others, and then
Yeah.
make your own dividends from it as well, and make it into something profitable, and makes your life prosperous and fulfilling and unique.
Hmm.
You're onto something.
Yeah.
And just that alone should make people realize she's onto something. I need to
Yeah.
talk to her. There's something going on here that I need to know about, because that's pretty incredible. You know what I mean? It's pretty incredible. And I'm allowed to celebrate you anytime I want. And that's all. I reserve the right to
Thanks,
celebrate you.
Lace.
Yeah.
I am so humbled by that. You know, for me, this is a purpose thing, and that's really what it comes down to. Is I was made
Mhm.
for this. I really do think so. And the way that I have guided myself as an entrepreneur, because I didn't go to business school, you know, like I came out of the gates and
Yeah.
decided to be a coach, and there wasn't anybody really in Toronto, if not Canada, calling themselves a performance coach when I
Mhm.
launched. And but I had a pretty easy time deciding who I wanted to help, because it was based on my experience and who I felt that I could help the most.
Yeah.
And I really, really get the high achiever. And I think that's really important to the high achiever, is that I have that kind of street cred, is because I have that lived experience. I've literally been in the trenches with this stuff.
So
And
I have a question for you before you continue, because I think that people might not identify themselves as a high performer.
yeah.
So just to talk about quickly, what kind of struggles do high performers have that you help them with?
Yeah, I think this is the way I describe it. It's I get the high achievers coming through my door. Like I said, hitting the brick wall or up
Yes.
against the glass ceiling. In other words, the client who picks up the phone when they're hitting the brick wall, this is me, my freshman year. It's like the pro athlete who's in the scoring drought, you know, is trying to get back
Yeah.
in the lineup. Or it's my high achiever who's at work like 18 hours a day down on Bay Street. You know, these investment bankers, they have crazy hours and a lot of stress. I mean, just imagine right now with everything that's going on in the stock
Oh,
market.
oh,
So they have
Oh.
horribly deficit, unsustainable, broken strategies that they rely on and depend on to be able to achieve. But yeah, they typically, by the time they come through my door, it's because they're cognitively burning out because they don't take care of themselves. They're all or nothing perfectionists, right? Like really, really, really just trying to fill that deficit of self-worth through that external validation of the promotion or the pay increase or the whatever. And so by the time they come through my door, it's because now all of a sudden they can't sustain what it is that they've created in terms of their success because, all of a sudden their health is failing them and they can't continue to produce that result that they're being paid for, accounted on for.
And
Or
what else? They're tired, drained, burnt out.
it's the thing is like, it's either a health brick wall or maybe like they're working 18 hours a day. So things are falling apart at home. Their kids aren't talking to them. Those, the relationship with their partners completely a wreck or in crisis. So those are my brick wallers. And then the glass ceilingers are just the ones who've been on that crazy growth trajectory. They've had a lot of success, but now they're getting into the leadership area.
Exactly.
And they've never had to perform at that level before in that way. So they just don't have the strategies available to them to be able to continue to sustain that awesome rate of growth.
Yeah.
So those are the people that come through my door. And in both cases, I would qualify those as high achievers. And it's really just, again, like the work for them is teaching them how to pull it all inside and take a look at where these deficit strategies lie and where they came from and why they're continuing to elicit them so that we can really deconstruct all of that behind the gates, like I said, here in the subconscious.
Oh yeah. Like what's really going on in the back of the mind that's influencing the decisions and the strategies and everything like that. Yeah.
They don't even know what their strategies are. This is the thing.
Exactly. They're like, what did I came up with a description once. They're so fast you can't even see them moving, and then we wonder where they were and what they did. It's like what you did, like a fireball, zoom, zoom, right? Would you say that? So like, say it again.
That's how you can tell a high achiever.
Yes.
I always say they're on the rev bulb. Pedal to the metal.
Yeah.
Crash. All or nothing.
100%.
Yeah.
So can I describe like this, the work that you accomplish with your clients is you help them take achievement into performance more, like you teach them strategies that help them to go from high achievement to high performance. You lead them down that road, cross those bridges, develop themselves into landing in a new spot like that.
Yeah, it's taking them off the roller coaster, which is the life of a high achiever of all or nothing, crash and burn, crash and burn. And it's like putting them on a solid foundation. I said we deconstruct all the broken, unsustainable strategies. Well, we re-architect a blueprint of intrinsically based strategies that, they can predictably and consistently and reliably access within to be able to ensure that they're able to show up and play their biggest game. Like no matter what's going on outside our four walls right now, like this whole coronavirus madness. But it's teaching them how to be in control of themselves, of their state, of getting their needs met, of being able to ensure no matter again what the variables are in terms of the adversity is like they know where to go inside of themselves to be able to show up in peak state.
Right. You help them find the resources that are there that they don't even know, right?
Yeah, it's like unlocking the gates and like getting them deeper into themselves where all of these resources lie, which is how we massively accelerate the growth of our clients. It doesn't matter if it's health or wealth or business or relationships. It's like all of that is really dependent on where people are going to access sources for these different states that we've kind of mentioned: the confidence, the motivation, the focus, the whatever it is, courage, like you were saying, empowerment, inspiration, creativity, like showing them where to go inside of themselves to be able to access those states when they need them the most.
Oh yeah, it's the best. Well, I
Yeah.
absolutely adore you. So I just want you to explain. So I know you have other people working with you. You have this incredible company. People can find you. I'm going to put the links and everything in the episode so they know. Um, how can people work with you? So I know you have a team, so it's
Yeah.
one-on-one. I know you're doing some mastermind group stuff. Is there anything I'm
Yeah.
missing?
Yeah, so we're very, very fortunate. We've got a team of high performance coaches now, and each of us kind of specializes in different areas of performance.
Mm-hmm.
Myself, I'm specializing these days more in the leadership department. That's really where my passion is,
Yeah.
as I've really kind of delved into that in the last couple of years. I've started to work with more and more leaders, and there's a lot of very, very cool things about that type of work for me. Is just like, for me, it's all about the ripple effect and how many people can I impact with this work. Because again, this approach to high performance coaching is kind of unique. You know, there's
Oh
not a
yeah.
lot of high performance coaches out there that are experts in mindset. That's kind of, you know, again, what I bring from sports. So yeah, working with the leaders who are really out there on the big stage, like really having to play their biggest game sustainably, having to elicit certain strategies because there's a ripple effect to all the different lives that they're impacting. To me, that completely floats my boat. It's so fulfilling for me to see that ripple effect. That, you know this because you work with me, but
Oh yeah.
that's where my heart is right now, because I know that my impact game, that's me playing my biggest game in terms of my mission, which is to impact people's lives with this stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've got a team of coaches who specialize, some in the career area. So we've got a health expert on our team. You know, we've definitely got the one-on-one coaching option thing going, and we've got the High Performance Society, which is a high-level mastermind that we launched this year, that's going to continue to roll in 2021 will be the next class that launches for that. And then we've got the launch pad, which is basically the entry point into all of this mindset brain training thing that we do.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, which is a program that we're just about to roll out here in just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So stay tuned for that.
Oh yeah, you guys need to stay tuned for that, because I know you want to serve as many people as possible. So you're doing everything you can to take all your wisdom and knowledge over all these years and make it easier for people to have
That's
that
right.
connection. Because one-on-one, I think, is so important, because sometimes the vulnerability state is very critical for a person to just have that space. And sometimes it's like people are very comfortable functioning in a team. You know what I mean? Which is what these group experiences bring them, you know, is like, we're in an environment, we're together, we're working together, we're building together, we're learning from each other.
Yeah.
So having that variety, that scale of choice is so important for people. Well, I adore you, and you know, I absolutely am so proud of you. And I just can't wait. You're just getting warmed up, really. Like,
I would not be here without you, Lee. So I give so much credit to you. You're my spiritual running buddy. You know that.
Yeah, thank you.
You're my spiritual brain trainer for sure.
Yeah.
I can't even. There's just no way I would be where I am today, helping so many people and having such an impact, if it weren't for you and your incredible work.
Thank you, honey. I really appreciate it. It means the world to me.
Honestly.
Yeah. No,
Honestly.
it does. Vice versa, vice.
I can't wait for us to get into that, right? It's like we've talked about all this from a brain training mindset perspective. And
oh yeah.
I know, like, what I'm really passionate about right now is just what I've learned since doing your spiritual mastermind, especially because I've been working with you one-on-one for a decade, like I said, pretty much the whole time I've been doing this coaching thing. But this high-level mastermind experience I had with you and your crew here last year was like, I accessed a whole other gear that I didn't even know existed inside of myself after all these years.
It's so good.
That spiritual unlocking of the portal, or the door subconsciously, that just helped me illuminate such freaking clarity in terms of where I want to go with this work next. So
I'm excited, and I'm excited for us to do a couple of things too. So you guys stay tuned, because it's going to happen. Yeah. High performance energy, high performance spirituality. So important.
yeah,
this is
gonna be next level, because
Yeah,
I think
so
a lot of a lot of high achievers, again, it's all about people's associations, like we were saying with the word challenge. I think sometimes high achievers don't give enough credit to how powerful a resource the spiritual department can be for their performance.
For sure. And it's so important, because some of the things I know you learn from working with me is the levels in your brain, the different areas of your brain. You know, NLP is one section, but the intuitive side of the brain, and accessing that and learning about your own power to control your own energetics, it brings an entrepreneur through the roof. We become evolutionary entrepreneurs. Boom. That's who I work with. That's how we want to roll with. So, because it's so important, because that's also, like you said, that's a brick wall.
Yeah.
That's happening to many, many people.
100%. That's game changer. Like the spirituality aspect is just, there's no other way to describe it. It's a complete and utter game changer.
I'm so excited about what we're talking about.
Whole other stratosphere.
We're gonna have such a good time. You guys stay tuned, because this isn't our last conversation.
Oh yeah, we're just getting started.
Thank you. Honestly, thank you so much. I know everybody's gonna love listening to you and listening to your story, and how just real, raw, and practical. And let's go. Like, this is where I was and who I am today, and you can do it too. Like, that's the vibe, and that's where we stand. You know what I mean? Like, let's go, people. We need to do this together. Yeah, that's it. We need to do it together.
In it to win it together, right, Lise?
Absolutely, buddy, for sure. So thank you, everybody. All her information is going to be there. If you feel called, please contact my dear, beautiful friend Susan and her team, because if you need this kind of help, just get on it. Don't waste your time. Thank you so much, babe. I love you.
Thanks for having me. I love you too, Lise.
You bet. And we will see you next time. Bye for now, folks.